China has yet to respond to the issue of the leaked recording of Hong Kong Chief Executive Carrie Lam, who is heard to say that she would quit if she had a choice. But Beijing has thrown its full support behind the embattled leader. The recording from a week ago was made during a private lunch. For her part, Mrs. Lam is insisting she did not discuss resigning with Beijing and says it is her choice to stay on as Hong Kong leader.
But for a chief executive to have caused this huge havoc to Hong Kong is unforgivable. It's just unforgivable. If I have a choice, the first thing is to quit, having made a deep apology.
A leaked recording from a week ago laying bare Carrie Lam's personal thoughts about her fraught position as the leader of Hong Kong. Those muffled words made public the night before a weekly news conference. In front of a room full of journalists, Mrs. Lam did not deny she said those words. But her criticism was sharp, the indignation unmistakable.
I was and am still is very disappointed that my remarks in a totally private, exclusive session, which is a lunch actually, which clearly is subject to Chatham House rules, have been recorded and then passed to the media. I think this is quite unacceptable. I have never tendered a resignation to the Central People's Government. I have not even contemplated to discuss a resignation with the Central People's Government.
A seemingly unequivocal statement, but a key question now, does Hong Kong's chief executive still want the job? Protests, which have got increasingly violent, have plunged Hong Kong into levels of crisis. Some are calling the worst since the 1997 handover. Initial calls for Mrs. Lam to quit have now morphed into a demand for genuine universal suffrage. In the leaked audio recording, Mrs. Lam also admitted she was caught between the party and the people.
The political room for the chief executive, who unfortunately has to serve two masters by constitution, that is the Central People's Government and the people of Hong Kong. That political room for maneuvering is very, very, very limited.
A sentiment that few would disagree with, but also perhaps the very reason why a political solution to the current crisis is nowhere in sight.
Olivia Xiong joins us now from Beijing to go deeper into this story. Olivia, you were at the news conference this afternoon. It took an hour for officials to discuss the key issue, which was Carrie Lam's leaked audio. And it was you who brought it up. Tell us more about what those Beijing officials said.
Well, with the escalating unrest in Hong Kong, and most recently, as we heard there, the recorded remarks of Carrie Lam being leaked to the media, I asked Beijing officials from the Hong Kong and Macau Affairs Office how Beijing plans to intervene or to help the Hong Kong government to restore its authority as well as to restore long-term stability in the city. And, you know, after all, these demonstrations have gone on for 13 weeks, and the Hong Kong government and protesters are still at this deadlock. And in answering my question, the Hong Kong and Macau Affairs Office spokesperson Xu Luying, now she did not directly mention that leaked recording or the comments of Carrie Lam that were made about her, wanting to quit if she had the choice. But instead, what she did say, what the Beijing officials said, was that the central government firmly supports Mrs. Lam and the Hong Kong government, and that the most important task right now is to stop the violence in the city. And she added that the central government also firmly supports the police in upholding the law, especially given that the police have been targeted by protesters in escalating violence that we have seen in recent weeks. But Ms. Xu, the spokesperson, also did say, reiterated that there have been some deep-seated issues that have come to the fore in these recent weeks of demonstrations, and then this attention has to be paid to that. And she said it's important to separate or differentiate between the peaceful marches and the radical violent protesters. And she hopes that Hong Kong will focus on growing its economy, and said that the central government, for example, has plans. For example, one of them being the Greater Bay Area plans to integrate Hong Kong, Macau, and 9 other mainland cities to become an innovation and technological powerhouse.
未来，中央的有关部门还将继续的努力创造条件，积极的研究出台有利于香港、澳门发展、有利于内地与港澳合作交流的务实的举措。相信有祖国内地的强大后盾，香港一定能够保持香港的繁荣稳定。但是，能否抓住国家发展的重大机遇，用好中央给予香港的一些优惠的政策和措施，特别是实现这些措施惠及全体市民，归根到底还需要香港自身努力和奋斗。
So what did Beijing officials say about the protests in Hong Kong then?
Well, in his opening statement, the other Hong Kong and Macau Affairs spokesperson, Yang Guang, did say that there have been some positive signs and positive developments of late, but he did acknowledge that the situation in Hong Kong is still grim and complex. So now, touching on the more positive side, Mr. Yang said that there is consensus in the city to curb the violence that has been seen, and that about 500,000 people had, participated in a rally to stand against the violence that has been seen in the city. Police, he said, have also fought against the illegal activities and arrested more than 1,000 people. And he also noted that overseas Chinese have organized rallies to show their support for Hong Kong and for the mainland. But the situation, Mr. Yang said, still remains grim and complex. He noted that there has been violence and illegal activities have not been kept at bay. There's still a number of radical rioters who have used petrol bombs and steel balls and have targeted their anger towards the police. He also said that some of these protesters have incited students to boycott classes. And in his words, he said that these behaviors can constitute violent crimes in any country and region and under any legal system, and making these people thugs through and through.
他们心甘情愿充当外部势力和反中乱港势力的马前卒，不惜做出暴力违法的恶行，目的就在于搞乱香港，瘫痪特区政府，进而夺取特区的管制权，从而把香港变成一个独立或半独立的政治实体，假高度自治、港人治港之名，行完全自治，对抗中央之实，最终使一国两制名存实亡。
And Mr. Yang did say that no mercy should be shown to those who have incited violence or those who have masterminded some of these developments behind the scenes. But when asked for a timeline, he said the central government does share the common goal of the Hong Kongers to see the unrest in the city being resolved as soon as possible.
All right. Thanks for that. Olivia Song speaking to us from Beijing. Now, let's go over to Hong Kong. Our correspondent Leong Wai Kit is there. Wai Kit, how are the Hong Kong people reacting to Carrie Lam's latest news briefing?
Well, Glenda, the news broke on Monday night, and already people were sharing on Facebook and Twitter to the news. Some even tried to find that audio recording where Chief Executive Mrs. Carrie Lam said that she would quit if she had a choice. And you can imagine how this latest episode is adding to the current sentiments of Hong Kong citizens. They have been taking to the streets for some 13 weeks now, making their 5 demands known. And so you can imagine that this latest episode is just going to fuel their ongoing unhappy, negative sentiments against Mrs. Carrie Lam. But what's important is that we'll have to take a few steps back and look at how this latest episode is going to impact Mrs. Carrie Lam's leadership and credibility, because before this leaked audio recording, she has very firmly and publicly said that she and her government have not lost control of the situation and that she will be doing her best to resolve the political crisis. So this latest leaking of audio recording episode is just going to add on one more challenge to her in navigating this political crisis.
And Wai-Kit, what about the response then in Hong Kong to the Hong Kong-Macau Affairs Office, the news conference that was earlier today?
Well, one of the talking points is the participation of students in peaceful demonstrations. Of course, Hong Kong has just reopened its new school term on Monday, and we've seen students from university as well as secondary school taking part in peaceful protests. But China says that this group of students have inevitably been made use of as political tools for some organizers to further their cause. But here in Hong Kong, at least one lawmaker, opposition lawmaker, has said that yes, these students may be under the age of 18, but these students are bright, they're intellectual, and they are allowed to have their own political stand. Now, the other topic that was brought out was when Hong Kong may roll out an emergency law and what role the China troops based in Hong Kong may have. As you've heard my colleague Olivia Xiong reporting early in Beijing, that China stands by Carrie Lam, Mrs. Carrie Lam, for her to consider any type of law to control the situation. So far, there has been no outright rejection of rolling out the emergency law. And China, of course, has also said that the troops based in Hong Kong will not stand by idly if the situation worsens. But this is as specific as it gets. There's no timeline, as you've heard Olivia Xiong say earlier. There's also no specific criteria. So when I met the Hong Kong police force senior leaders, very senior officers, I asked them quite directly, has there been any informal or formal exchange of views or strategies between the Hong Kong police force as well as the troops from China based in Hong Kong or with their mainland China counterparts? And they said no such exchanges since June. Of course, remember that the Hong Kong police force has been saying that they're able to contain the situation and that they will continue to handle any form of violent protests that may take place.
All right, many thanks for that. Leung Wai-Kit speaking to us from Hong Kong.